Dr. Amanda with StraightSmile Solutions, StraightSmileSolutions.com, and today we're going to talk about startup cost for launching GP Ortho in your practice. And anytime I get this question, which is fairly frequent, first thing I say is, whoa, hey, let's take a step back. I can't give you an answer because it depends on what you're launching and how you're launching it. And every single office is totally unique. So I usually like to make a phone call with the doctors when they have this question so I can get to know a little bit more about their practice, their demographics, what their competition is, what their goals are, what their skill set is, what type of supplies they already have, how much experience their team already has. There's a lot of things that go into it. And by the way, I do cover pretty much all of this in my book. So if you want to access my book, you can go to Amazon or you can go to my website and StraightSmileSolutions.com and just look for a book, and everything you need to know is in there. And the Kindle version is only $9.99. But in any case, I'm going to give you lots of free information right now on this video. So how much does it cost? Okay, this is going to be like really, really vanilla generic, high level, So I do recommend that you have a conversation with me. It's totally free. I offer these for free to any licensed dentist in any country, basically. As long as you speak English, I'm glad to talk to you. It's up to 20 minutes. It's free. One conversation per doctor. We're not going to talk about a particular case. There is a fee for that. But if you just want to talk high level about ortho in your practice, ask questions, I'm super glad to do this. If you would like to do this, you can go to my website, StraightSmileSolutions.com, and just go to contact and go ahead and set up a free call. But in any case, let's talk about costs. So again, it depends on what you're doing. I always talk about there's 3 different buckets, right? There's braces, there's aligners, and there's phase 1 interceptive. And I do recommend that all doctors eventually do all 3, but ultimately, usually you're going to start with 1. And which one you're going to start with is really going to depend on, again, those things we talked about before: your experience, your skills, your team skills, your demographics, your competition. So we'll find what's best for you. And most doctors come in, I say the majority start with clear aligners, some type of clear aligners, but I actually think that you should start with braces, or at least learn about it. I'm not saying you have to do it, because I really like to, in terms of your education, I really don't think you fully understand aligners. I don't care how many classes you take unless you understand braces, and there's a truth to that. Now, in terms of classes, the cost of classes varies, like it's all over the place, right? And if you go into my YouTube site, which I'm assuming if you're watching this, you have access to that, and find that little magnifying glass. It's super small, and you can search by keyword. So you can put in ortho classes, etc. And I go over a lot of classes. Some of them I've taken. If I'm invited to come take a class, I don't need to take a class because I'm an orthodontist, right, with 20 years experience. But I've been invited. I've taken the 6-month smile classes. Some classes I've been kicked out of if I show up. And it's funny because it's like, okay, I'm just here to review your class, and if it's good, I'm going to tell doctors it's good, right? If you're doing good stuff. I've taken some are good, some not so good. Some I agree with, some I don't agree with. Ultimately, it really depends. But true honesty, you really don't need to take a class, because the reason why I've created over 3,000 pieces of content, and it costs me money to produce these, to market these, to get the graphics done. I've probably invested, hundreds of thousands of dollars in these of my own money just to give to you guys, just because there's so much bad information out there. It just frustrates me and every other orthodontist out there that there's garbage in terms of education that's being taught. And I hesitate to tell you what's garbage because, I don't want to get sued by some of these companies, which have a lot more money than I do. I got better things to do, but I can put out good information. And everything you're getting from me is unbiased and good information and truthful. It's just coming from my experience. So in terms of classes, you shouldn't be, in my opinion, spend nothing on classes. 0, which should be your answer. No reason to pay for a class. Why? Why are you paying for classes when there's free information out there? But in any case, be like a millennial. Millennials don't pay for things. They just learn things off YouTube, right? But anyways, yes, braces classes, it can be upwards. Oh, goodness. $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year. These weekend classes, crazy expensive. Do people do better work for taking these classes? Nope. Because I've been coaching for 10 years, exclusively for 5 years. And I see what people do, who's taken this class, that class. I'm not going to name what they are. And the ones who've taken no classes and just learn things off YouTube are just as good as the ones who take the classes. So anyways, my opinion. So, okay. Aligners, again, you can pay $0. You can take classes. Most of the classes for aligners are put out by a particular brand. So obviously Invisalign has their own classes. ClearCorrect has their own classes. A lot of these ones have their own classes, but there are other seminars that put out things. The problem is a lot of times they're sponsored by a aligner company, so it's really biased. So again, my answer is you should pay $0, but you do what you do you. Same thing with the phase 1 interceptive classes. Most of those are sponsored by a particular company. Again, totally biased towards that system. You'll learn that system, but a lot of it's not truthful. So, based on my experience, again, you can pay $0. In my opinion, but your choice, you do you. If you want to pay for a class, go for it. Just keep in mind, you might have to undo things that are incorrect. And just because these are taught by an orthodontist, a lot of times if you're a KOL for these companies, you're forced to say things you don't agree with, which is why I no longer work as a KOL for any company, just because of that. So, okay. So that covers the classes, right? You can do this for $0. That makes things easy, right? Individual case coaching. That's optional. You don't have to do this. It is something that I offer, individual case coaching. And a lot of other orthodontists do it too. Some don't really have it up on a website. Some kind of do it under the table. You're welcome to talk to your local orthodontist. I've seen a lot of great work. I'm sure if you're working with orthodontists, it's really, really great. A lot of the systems and the doctors out there only help with Invisalign, but some will help with any case. It really depends on their platform. Ultimately, it comes down to what type of service, how speedy you want your service, how open-minded you want it to be. I know when you work with me, our fees at the moment that I'm putting out this video, they are lower than they are going to be in a few months. But at the moment that I'm putting out this video, help with one case up to a 20-minute session is $299, any type of case. Or you can get unlimited support on unlimited cases, one doctor, one office for $11.99 a month plus tax. Any type, phase 1, braces, aligners, Invisalign, doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. But, there's all different ways to do that. So that's your choice if you want individual case coaching. I think it's great because by doing individual case coaching, even if you only do it for a short period of time, a few cases, a month, 2 months, you will learn so much more by learning by doing than by just hypothetical learning. It doesn't make as much sense. It's learn just like you do in dental school. Didn't you learn more when you were in your 3rd year or your end of your 2nd year and you started working on cases than when you're just sitting in a classroom being bored? So it's like, it makes so much more sense when you're working on a patient, and that's exactly how we do things in ortho residency. We barely, at least we didn't have really, we had a few classes, but we didn't wait to start working on patients till we took the classes. We had a few classes which supplemented what we were learning, but mostly we tried to do all different types of ortho cases. We did, I don't know, maybe a few hundred starts. I can't remember how many cases we started, and we took over a lot of cases in progress from the 3rd years who graduated, and that's how we learned. So if we had a class 3 case, then we'd learn everything about class 3, and we'd read the journal articles about class 3 and read the literature about class 3, and et cetera, et cetera. We learned about SEFs, we learned about all that. So that's how I teach the doctors that I work with, by individual case coaching. And then I supplement it as needed with, now I have those 3,000 pieces of content and journal articles as needed if you are more of a journal article kind of person, et cetera, et cetera. What about hard startup cost? What about supplies, equipment, things like that? Again, totally varies. It depends on what you already have in your office. So if you're doing braces are going to be a little bit more expensive. Well, not really. I've managed to take that supply list and whittle it down to just about $1,200. And I've created a list. I've worked with one particular vendor, which is TP Ortho. They have basically Dr. Wilson's StraightSmile Solutions list. I get 0 kickbacks from this, just letting you know. It's just that they are very nice to work with and they were willing to create a list for me. But you can take that list and go to any vendor and get the same thing. I don't really care where you take it. You can go to eBay if you want to, but it's about $1,200 if you whittle down that list. Now, if you go to some of these courses, it's going to be significantly more expensive. Oh, sorry, that list is not including pliers. I'm assuming you have the basic pliers. A lot of people have them already. Pliers, again, you can get them from eBay for a couple $100. And, ultimately it depends on what you have. So that's the hard cost for, your wires, your ties, your springs, things like that. On top of that, you're going to be paying a lab fee. I do never recommend that a GP do direct bonding. Do not try to learn to place brackets, because that takes years to learn how to do right, and you will just be spinning your wheels, wasting your time. Just do indirect bonding, have it digitally placed for you, and you can remove that off the table. Eventually, after seeing enough cases, you'll get it, and if you needed to fix a bracket and do it yourself, you can. But that's just complete waste of your time, in my opinion. So indirect bonding prices is going to vary depending on what type of brackets you want, but on the low end, it's maybe around $350, $400-ish for standard mini twin metal brackets. And again, any keyword I'm mentioning here that you want to know more about, you can go into my YouTube channel, just search with that little magnifying glass. You can look up indirect bonding or bracket placement or whatever you want to do. Upwards to $800, $900 per case if you're looking for ceramic, self-ligating. And it also depends on what type of lab you're using for indirect bonding. A lot of local labs do it for you. I've seen a lot of good, I've seen a lot of bad. I work with a lab that's just basically a white label indirect bonding. So there's no marketing, there's no branding, it's not even advertised. And they do amazing work, and they use really high quality brackets, basically the best on the market, the 3M Unitech Victory. And they're about $350 per case. So you can't get any cheaper than that, and you can't get any better brackets than that. And they do amazing digital placement, and they even let you check the placement and approve it. So you got to keep in mind that I've toured a lot of labs and how they do their indirect bonding. And I really love doing this kind of stuff. And some of them use, digital placement, which is a little more expensive because they have to invest in the software. Of course, that's going to be the higher quality, and that's a good question to ask. And some just have some tech that's just placing them on a model, and they just do a suck down over it. You don't want to do that. That's a question to ask, because these are not orthodontists. They maybe have some experience, but they ultimately don't care where the brackets go. So it's really not accurate. So you want to make sure they're using digital placement, and you also want to make sure that you're getting a copy of that STL, or at least a series of photos, and you can approve the placement. Because when I work with doctors who do that, I always say, let me see the brackets first, and let me see the placement virtually to make sure they're putting it on correctly, because some of it's really, really bad work. Okay, so what's the point of doing indirect bonding if it's going to be incorrect, right? The whole point is that you don't have to worry about the bracket placement. Okay, so again, startup costs for braces somewhere between, on the low end, $1,200 plus a little bit pliers, about $1,500, and then about $350 to $900 a case, depending on what type of brackets you want. And I'm not including retention in that. Retention is going to be a little bit more, depending on what type of retainers that you're going to use. Okay, aligners. Again, shouldn't be any startup cost for that. You should already have composites in your office and etch. That's pretty much all you need. Retainer case. Chewy is $1, so it shouldn't cost you anything. That's about all you need. I mean, of course, you really should have some type of scanner, and whatever type of scanner you have is going to tell you what aligner you're going to do. Obviously, if you have a Carestream or a Medit, you're probably not going to do Invisalign. If you have an iTero, you can do everything. So if you haven't bought a scanner and you're thinking about doing aligners, iTero might be the way to go. You don't have to get the most latest, greatest, snazziest one. You can get a Model 2 and pay about the same that you'd pay for the Carestream or Medit. And in that case, you would have more options in terms of what aligners do. But I really don't think you should start aligners if you don't have a scanner. But every dentist really should have a scanner. So very few don't have one at this point. What else? Phase 1 Interceptive startup costs. Again, there shouldn't be any cost to start this. You already have the basics, in your office. Hopefully you already have a scanner, because kids really don't want to take impressions. But you could take alternate impressions and pour them up if you really need to, and go old school if you really didn't want to. Lab fees for Phase 1 Interceptive, again, is going to vary depending on what you're offering. Are you just doing a traditional expander, an RPE? Are you doing something more sophisticated? Are you doing one of these branded systems? But it really varies from about $150 to about $800 or $900 per case. Remember, you're getting less money for Phase 1 Interceptive because you're billing your D8060 or D8050, which is a lot less. So you want to try to keep those lab fees as low as possible. And sometimes your Phase 1 Interceptive is bundled into your comprehensive fee. So you're going to start with the Phase 1 Interceptive, like expanding the arch or working on the airway or a habit appliance, and you're going to spin it off into braces or aligners later. So again, you want to keep your costs as low as possible. But anyways, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it gave you some inspiration to go ahead and start ortho. It's not expensive to get started. And it's just incredible amount of value to your practice. I can tell you, Many doctors that I've worked with have gone from doing 0 cases to bringing in easily 6 figures in a year without really investing anything, without even marketing, just seeing their existing patients and letting their patients know that they're offering this. The main thing you don't want to do is, hey, would you like an ortho exam? That's the stupidest thing to do. You just start bundling in ortho screenings into every single patient that walks in your office. It doesn't have to be teenagers and kids, it's adults too, because there's a reason for ortho and pretty much everyone. And that's the reason why the individual case support for a few months is really great, because I really suggest that you take a set of ortho records or even just screening photos. It doesn't have to be a full set of records, you know? Taking individual intraoral and extraoral photos is really kind of standard of care, you know? There's so many things that you can see from it for documentation. You just take those and you just add it to everything you do once a year that you already do. What do? You do a perio exam, you do an oral cancer screening. Well, now we just take a set of photos. And then with that set of photos, I usually recommend that the doctors let the patient know that they will be screening to see if they would benefit from orthodontics. It's part of standard of care, which it actually is, orthodontics, bite, airway. And that once you get really good, you'll be able to do it on the fly. But initially, you'll want to let them know that you're going to be studying their bite and that you're going to give them a call in a week and let them know the results of that. And you can even schedule that on the way out. A lot of doctors will schedule that as a virtual consultation or just a phone call, follow-up phone call, to let them know what they've found from their orthodontic exam once they've reviewed their records. And, you know, in that case, the patients are awaiting that outcome, and you could just let them know, it looks like you would benefit from orthodontics. Here's what we recommend. You know, sometimes it's going to be a referral out. Sometimes it can be done in-house. You can give them their options. After you've done this on every single patient, basically from age 7 to age 70, you know, you can even do higher than 70. I'm not giving you I recommend when you first getting started in a practice to stick with like maybe 7 to 40, 7 to 50, because a lot more complications the older they get in terms of perio and stuff. It tends to get a little more complex, you know, and you're going to refer a lot of cases out, but you're also going to keep a lot of cases in. And a lot of people, maybe they won't say yeah the first time. Then maybe they'll say, oh, well, you know, thanks for letting me know. I understand that I have crowding and some attrition, you know, and some fractions, and they would bend at my bite. If I fix my bite, these things might stop them from getting worse, you know, and I want to keep my teeth for a lifetime. So it could be, you can work on the functional direction, you can work on the aesthetics direction. There's all different directions you can head. And a lot of people have multiple, you know, obviously the younger they are, damage hasn't been done yet, but we want to correct things so that when they get older, there won't be damage, you know, and then the older they are, the idea is to aesthetics as well, but also to prevent future damage from happening and to keep their teeth for a lifetime. Obviously fixing things is a lot cheaper than throwing a bunch of implants in if you're losing teeth. So, you know, I know you guys want to do that too, but, you know, ultimately, I think you have to give your patient options and you have to let them know, because it is starting to become a liability when patients lose teeth or have to have teeth extracted or teeth fracture and break. And they're like, well, wait, hey, hold up. You never told me. You know, I went to the oral surgeon or I found out from my friend that if I had done orthodontics and fixed my bite way back when, that this maybe wouldn't happen. And this happens so often. I run a patient-facing Facebook group, and so often these patients are furious that their general dentist never even mentioned that they could benefit from orthodontics. They said, well, they never told me I could have done that. If they told me I could have done it 5-10 years ago, I would have totally done it. So it actually can become a liability for you if you're not even mentioning this. All you got to do is mention it. You mention it, you document it, that you had that conversation, you don't push, you don't sell hard. I think that's the wrong way to do it. It's all about education and options. And, you know, you just lightly mention it, you document it. They can say no, they can say yes. Okay, I just wanted to let you know. A year later, you take another set of photos, you follow up on it. Hey, let's see. It looks like back, you know, in 2020, we noticed that you had a little attrition, a little recession, you had some periodontal disease on these teeth, you had an abfraction on number 4. Let's just see how things are getting. Oh, look at the photos. Boom, boom. Looks like these things are getting worse. Okay, well, let's revisit that conversation we had last year about the benefit of doing a little orthodontics. You know, a long time ago, there was no way that adults were going to do it because they had to get braces. But now that they can get clear aligners just for a few months, just to improve a small problem, they don't have to fix the whole bite. Maybe we don't have to fix that overjet with elastics or do anything like that. But just by balancing the bite more or getting that tooth out of, traumatic occlusion, it's going to make the bite last longer. So that's all you're doing, is educating your patient on their options. It's going to be better for you. It's going to bring in more, resources. And ultimately, if you start lining the teeth up, getting the bite better, you're actually going to have more restorative and cosmetic work, and your work is going to turn out better. So it's really a win-win-win. And as you start doing more ortho on kids, the parents want it, and you start doing more ortho on adults, they go, oh, by the way, I have kids, and it brings kids into your practice, which brings vitality into your practice and builds revenue. And oh my goodness, ortho is a great practice builder. That's pretty much all I had to tell you in this video. All right, thanks so much.